Hello, my name's Laura Gow and I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Cambridge. In this short video, I'll define the notion of transparency, outline the qualia theorists' argument against the idea that perceptual experience is transparent, and suggest an alternative explanation of the qualia theorists' alleged counterexamples to perceptual transparency. My conclusion will be that all perceptual experiences are transparent. Those who think that perceptual experience is transparent claim that when we introspect our perceptual experiences, we do not seem to be aware of internal features of our experiences, or qualia. Everything we are aware of in perceptual experience seems to be externally located. Michael Tye describes a situation where one is introspecting one's perceptual experience of a tapestry. He says, "When you are told to attend closely to your visual experience, what you actually do is attend closely to the tapestry in the various ways it looks to you." Now, in another paper, I claim that there are two very different ways of understanding the transparency idea, as making a metaphysical claim or as making a phenomenological claim. Perceptual experience is metaphysically transparent if all the objects and properties we are perceptually aware of are in fact externally located. Perceptual experience is phenomenologically transparent if all the objects and properties we are perceptually aware of seem to be externally located. In this paper, I'm only concerned with phenomenological transparency, so from now on, when I talk about transparency, I'll mean phenomenological transparency. Qualia theorists, who argue against transparency, generally allow that much of our perceptual experience consists in an awareness of objects and properties which seem to be externally located, so in vision we are usually looking out at the world. However, they claim that some perceptual experiences, or some aspects of perceptual experiences, involve an awareness of objects or properties which do not seem to be externally located. They conclude that perceptual experience is not transparent. Now let us take a look at some of the examples qualia theorists give, which they say show that perceptual experience is not transparent. While I'm talking, focus on the small white square in the middle of the four coloured squares. After images are a much discussed example in the literature on transparency. Qualia theorists say that we do not perceptually experience after images as being externally located. If you now look at the empty square on the right-hand side of this slide, you should experience an after image. The qualia theorist claims that this does not perceptually seem to you to be out there, on the screen in front of you. The next case I consider in my paper is phosphene experience, the experience of swirls of colour and light that we get when we press lightly on our closed eyes. Again, the qualia theorist says that we do not perceptually experience phosphenes as being externally located. The most discussed example given by the qualia theorist is blur experience. If we let our eyes become unfocused, then we'll experience blur. Qualia theorists say that we do not ordinarily experience blur as being a property of externally located objects. Rather, we perceive it as being a property of our experience itself. So to summarise the qualia theorists' argument, they claim that after images, phosphenes and blur do not perceptually seem to be externally located, therefore perceptual experience is not transparent. I will now explain very briefly how I defend the idea that perceptual experience is transparent and the method I use for dealing with the qualia theorists' alleged counterexamples. My argument relies on a distinction between perceptual seeming and cognitive seeming. First, it is important to note that our overall experiential state at any one time involves more than just perceptual phenomenology. Our overall experiential state involves perceptual experience, but it also involves belief phenomenology and, as I argue, a kind of cognitive phenomenology which is different from belief. I call this cognitive phenomenology cognitive seeming. Incidentally, our overall experiential state will also involve mood, emotional, and proprioceptive phenomenology, but this isn't relevant for our present purpose. Here is an example to illustrate the difference between perceptual seeming, which is just perceptual experience, cognitive seeming, and belief. So, we perceptually experience everyday objects like tables and chairs. It cognitively seems to us that these objects are solid, in the sense of being impenetrable. But we believe, because physics tells us, that they are in fact composed mostly of empty space. Cognitive seeming states are belief-like. They are perhaps inclinations to believe, yet the fact that our current beliefs can conflict with how things cognitively seem shows that cognitive seemings aren't beliefs. In my paper, I draw upon this model of our overall experiential state to argue that the sense in which after images, phosphenes and blur do not seem externally located is cognitive, not perceptual. I argue that after images and so on perceptually seem to be out there, but they do not cognitively seem to be out there. I aim to motivate my account by describing some interesting, albeit somewhat impractical experiments that could be carried out to disable the cognitive seeming state we would usually have in standard cases of after-image, phosphene and blur experience. The subjects of these experiments would have to rely solely on their perceptual phenomenology, and I predict that these experiments would show that as far as perceptual seeming is concerned, after-images, phosphenes and blur do seem to be externally located. Therefore, perceptual experience is indeed transparent. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about the experiments I describe, please take a look at my paper. I'd very much welcome any comments you might have. I'd also like to thank the organisers of Minds Online, and special thanks go to Keith Allen, Jacob Berger, Amy Kind and Daniel Stoljar for their extremely helpful comments.